Hello, every Kumu. Today I'll be discussing Shister, but more specifically their server. If you don't know who Shister is, they are an animator and commentary YouTuber. They make commentary mostly on drama, mental health, and art-related topics. Although, I feel like Shister isn't really a bright little ball of sunshine behind the scenes. This video isn't made out of any malice towards Shister, but I want to spread awareness and call out their recent behavior that I will get into. Before I get into the meat of this video, please don't go around harassing anyone mentioned. I do not encourage anyone being harassed in general. But with that out of the way, let's get into it. This section will be discussing my bad experience with the Shister server. So, about a month ago, I was talking in the drama channel of Shister's server. I was talking with other people about how I think Yummy's art is ugly, until a mod called me out on it and I apologized. Also, by the way, Yummy isn't even in Shister's server, so it wasn't like I was saying their art was ugly in the vicinity of them. A little bit later, I come back and reply to the mod, saying that I felt their tone was a bit rude to me. For context, I'm someone who struggles with autism, ADHD, and severe generalized anxiety disorder, which isn't a very good mix of disorders. This mix of disorders also explains why I have hypersensitivity, which I experience more emotions, physical sensations, and environmental factors more intensely than others. I also get easily overwhelmed, can't read tone on text easily, etc. To make it clear, this isn't an excuse for anything, but rather an explanation for this situation and why I thought the mod's tone was rude. For example, I pointed out how they said, "It should be obvious why," which felt slightly offensive to me due to the fact that I don't always know when things are obvious, and I can't always point out obvious things. And also, drama can correlate to many different things, and many people might get different ideas of what drama is, especially in a channel made for it. Then the mod said, "I don't know how autism has anything to do with this," when I quite literally already explained it to them. Also, they brought up how calling someone's art ugly is mean, which I already apologized for, took acknowledgement, took accountability, realized it, etc. So, I don't know why they felt the need to keep bringing it up when I already apologized for it. Then I went on to say that autism is relevant since it explains how I perceive tone differently. So, using harsh tones ain't gonna help me understand you better. They then said, "Genuinely don't see how this is rude." And then I point out the rude tones, such as, "I shouldn't have to explain this," and "I don't see how being autistic has anything to do with this." Then text says, "I don't see how being autistic has anything to do with having the basic decency to not start dissing on people's art," which isn't even what I'm talking about or referring to. I'm quite literally saying that my autism affects how I perceive tone, not about the yummy art thing. Then Tech criticizes how I need things pointed out for me, which unfortunately sometimes I do, 'cause guess what? I have autism and I don't always know my rights from wrongs. Not an excuse, just an explanation, of course. I don't like that I need specific things pointed out for me, but again, rights from wrongs can be a confusing thing for me. I wish that I could know all my rights from wrongs, but unfortunately, there's some things that may be too complicated for me, or there's just some things that I don't understand at all, no matter how much it's explained to me. Then someone says, "Do you struggle with a direct explanation of, hey, it's not okay to do this here?" Which is one thing that I do fully understand, but if it's said in a rude tone, then I won't be able to understand. Then this is where I ask if me and the mod could DM privately about this, to which they declined and still wanted to drag it. They love to keep bringing up their initial comment even though I already apologized, and what we're talking about now isn't really relevant to that anymore. Literally, I'm just asking them to speak in a nicer tone so I can understand them. Also, no, I never did this out of any malice or to not take accountability, which I already did previously. I don't know how many times I have to stress that to these people. Then me and someone else mentioned how tone tags would work better. But when I asked Tech to use tone tags, they straight up ignored me, so I felt like my feelings weren't being taken into any consideration. Then Tech made this announcement, and when I said something about it, Shister straight up mocked my autism and banned me. I later spoke to Shister in DMs and they were dismissing my feelings, as well as being unserious. They also kept using burger and crying emojis, which just automatically told me they didn't care and had no sympathy. And also the fact that they said, "I'm not emotionally invested enough to explain," which is crazy considering they're literally the server owner. I also got some screenshots from a moot, and one of the mods, Sir Slobber, was literally mocking my autism as well as saying, "Tech, please tell me why murder is wrong, I'm autistic," which is insane and ableist. I get that a lot of the mod team is autistic, but guess what? You can still say ableist things even if you have autism. That doesn't excuse anything. Before we get into the later sections, I would just like to go over my issues with the Shister server overall. First of all, Shister would do these mini raids where they would ban people who didn't fit the Shister criteria. I remember having a good correlation with this one person in the server, and they genuinely had no problems, but then all of a sudden they were banned one day. These little mini raids would make other members clearly worried about being banned, which I don't think you should be putting that kind of stress on your audience, especially when genuine nice people were getting banned. So it was like a game of Russian roulette. I was one of these people who were worried as well, since I've always been on good terms with Shister. Part of this Shister criteria is that if you aren't like them, you just get kicked or banned. I'm not joking. Shister says they're just trying to cater to themselves, but this is just straight up entitled and cult-like behavior, I'm not gonna lie. I have a server of my own, and I think it's common sense that not everyone is gonna be like you or think the same as you. They also quite literally admit to having a cult, which is very concerning. I have a very strong distaste for cults and other things of the sort. Shister may seem chill and nice on their YouTube channel, but in their server and DMs they act quite privileged and arrogant. This brings us to our next section, where someone else came out to me with their experience with Shister as well. So someone in my comment section of my recent live stream came out about how Shister called them parasocial for thinking one of their videos was made from a personal experience they had and emotionally charged at them. Later, they would send me screenshots of the whole conversation, so I'll display these on screen now. Please take the time to pause and read. The video that Moodee, also known as Hope in the screenshots, was talking about this video, where Shister points out that mental health isn't an excuse for bad stuff. Before I continue on, I'd just like to say that this thumbnail kinda contradicts what Shister talks about in their video. For example, the "it's an explanation, not an excuse" can be contradicted since sometimes things can be explained without being an excuse, but I digress. Moodee wanted to share their thoughts on the video and maintain a civil conversation about it. Shister then goes on and seems to take Moodee's criticism as a personal attack. They also spread misinformation on BPD, saying that splitting is purely emotional and only becomes outwards if you let it. But from what I've gathered from Moodee, splitting is completely uncontrollable. It's a psychological defense, and it's an unconscious process. I myself don't have BPD, but Moodee does, so I'm taking this from them. And I've also done my own research on the internet about BPD myself. Shister also quite literally states that individuals with BPD can control these behaviors, but I feel like they aren't fully considering how BPD can be different for many people, which is harmful. While I do see that recognizing irrational thoughts is important, many others struggle a lot with that, and stating that control is in your control oversimplifies the struggles with BPD. I really don't like that Shister makes it seem like BPD can be easily managed. In fact, BPD is very hard to manage for individuals who struggle with it. Also, the way Shister just calls Moodee parasocial without reason is so weird, and feels like Shister is deflecting and getting mad that someone is criticizing them. I feel really bad for Moodee in this situation, seeing as they just wanted to talk about the video. So, on my recent live stream, Sir Slobber comments on the Shister part I mentioned, basically spewing the same stuff that I already went over. This is also the same person that mocked autism, by the way. Sir Slobber doesn't seem to understand that autism varies for everyone, and doesn't even consider how I felt in the situation. Just because many other people in the server have autism doesn't mean it's the same as yours. And since y'all are autistic, you guys should know this. But here are my responses to their comments, since I think they speak for themselves. Genuinely, I don't know what these people want from me at this point. Overall, I'm pretty disappointed with Shister and their mods. Tech quite literally could have complied with me and agreed to speak more nicely, since I struggle with tone, but Shister and them just dismissed my feelings, along with Shister and Sir Slobber mocking my autism, which left me feeling very dehumanized. The fact that they also tried so hard to defend themselves is crazy to me, knowing what I know now. Shister may seem nice on YouTube, but this is just how they like to act behind the scenes. Also, before I end this video off, I'd just like to mention that Shister doesn't like people joining their server for drama-related stuff, when, first of all, they do drama commentary, and it's to be expected. And they literally have a drama discussion channel in their server. I just think that's goofy. But anyways, that was all I had to talk about. Thank you for listening, and bye-bye my little Kumus.